Hey everybody, it's Cheryl, lead Off Leash K9 Training. How are you guys this evening? We had a great spring break. My daughter and I and her friend and my good friend, my daughter's friend's mother, we went to Disneyland. Super fun. I have a new guy over there. He just came today. Kind of aggressive GSD, and then I've got Tioga wandering around the house as well. So I'm going to jump right in to questions. I hope you guys have had a good week and had a happy Easter if you celebrate that, or whatever holiday you might celebrate. All right, so a friend of mine had asked a question. No? Okay. Anyway, we're back. Sorry about that. It says, I'm writing tonight because we are at our wit's end with our new dog, Greta. In one particular respect, she has super annoying high anxiety when we put her in the backyard and we are in the house. Does not matter if it's rain or shine, day or night, or even if other playful dogs are with her. When we put her out, she begins an endless cycle of anxiety circles. All right, they say third time's a charm. As I reiterated in the last one, I live in a solar-powered house, totally off the grid. It's awesome 98% of the time, but sometimes things don't work. Roan, my daughter's standing right here. You can say hi. Anyway. So if you had to disconnect and you've reconnected, thank you. And thank you for your patience. Sorry about that. But I'm just going to continue on and hope this works out this way. It's a good thing I have a glass of wine this evening in my happy glass. Hopefully it's going to keep me happy. All right. It's 9:09. Here we go. Jumping back into it. So a friend of mine, Mandy, had asked a question about her dog, Greta. She has a super annoying high anxiety when we put her in the backyard and we are in the house. It does not matter if it's rain or shine, day or night, or even if other playful dogs are with her. When we put her out, she begins an endless cycle of anxiety circuits. She barks at the back door, runs away, runs back to the back door, barks, squeals, sometimes jumps on the door, runs away, comes back, bark, back to bark, squeal, jump, etc. Any ideas? So this is what I told her in a nutshell, and I'll elaborate a little bit more. Greta, she's a rescue, which doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything at all. But I don't know if she fostered her and now she's rescuing her. I can't remember. But regardless, it's a new dog to her house. And she has another dog that lives there. Hi, Ann. She has another dog that lives there. And that doesn't mean anything either. But what I told my friend Mandy, I said, it's too much space for Greta. She needs a smaller space. She does fine in the kennel, and I told her, maybe you leave her in the kennel. You take her out in the morning, put her back in the kennel, come home for lunch, let her out, maybe do half an hour with her, something, little walk, 10 minutes of training, put her back in the kennel, go back to work and come home. But to have that little puppy or that dog, it doesn't matter if it's a puppy or dog, but to have that dog that has such anxiety, she has anxiety, and to have that dog in such a big space like that, it's just too much, too many options. It's like a kid in a candy store. I don't know if any of you have kids that are watching this, but if you ever have a kid and they're trying to make a choice between one toy and another toy, it's really hard sometimes. Sometimes they just want the one toy. So a dog with anxiety like that, with too much space, it's going to just feed into their anxiety. So I think I've said this on, I'm pretty sure I've said this on one of my lives, but imagine a dog or imagine yourself in a big empty warehouse room, no phone, nothing to do. Somebody locks the door and says, I'll see you back here in a few hours. I usually say it about a gymnasium, old school gymnasium. So you're in the gymnasium kind of wandering around, maybe reading what championship games they've won in volleyball or basketball. You're just kind of bored to death, but your mind's going crazy with what you could be doing. And then imagine the same scenario when somebody puts a big lazy boy chair in there. You might wander around for a minute or two, but eventually you'll probably end up on that lazy boy and you might actually take a nap. So it's the same kind of idea for Greta. For her to be in the backyard running around all by herself, or with the dog, which they have another dog, but she doesn't care about the other dog. The other dogs, we like to think, oh, this dog's really helping and it's going to help my dog. And they do sometimes. So keep thinking that, because they actually do. Like when I have a new dog here and Tioga's here and I leave the house, it's a little bit easier the first times, but I also will take Tioga later because I want to make sure that dog can do it on their own as well. I don't want another dog to be a crutch. And in Greta's case right now, the other dog isn't even of value to her. She just wants to be with the humans. So what I told my friend Mandy in a nutshell was, leave her in the kennel during the day. And if you want to transition her to the backyard, make a smaller pen. Do it in the house for a while, maybe a week, maybe 4 weeks. It just depends on the dog. Maybe 4 months. It just depends on the dog. But do the kenneling during the day in the house. See how that goes over time. Now maybe make a pen in the backyard that's smaller, or put the crate outside, under cover somewhere. So now you're transitioning her with a baby step. Crate goes outside, it's underneath the patio, it's in the shade, she has water, she has what she needs, but it's the same routine she was doing in the house with her for the previous 5 days to 5 weeks. And now she's outside in the same kennel with the same bed, but now a little bit of a different environment, and she can't get up and wander around. She still has to be kind of physically more sedate, which a physical dog sedate helps the mind be more sedate. It's really true. Like the dog that's up and running around, the mind's more like this. But when you get a dog to have to lay down, eventually the mind kind of goes with it. So keep that in mind. And then over time, maybe the kennel goes into this pen that's maybe, 20 feet by 20 feet. I mean, it can be an arduous process to get the dog to that place. So now the kennel's in the pen, and eventually, so maybe that's 5 days or 5 weeks. And then eventually the dog's just in the pen, and then eventually the dog's just in the backyard. So it is a way, although dogs in backyards, if there's other people walking by and they see other dogs walking by and they have moments of time where they're like fence fighting, where they run to the fence and just bark at everything that goes by, that's not a good scenario either. So if you have a yard, you're trying to get your dog into the yard to just be out there all day long, and they can see other dogs walking by, or there's animals walking by, and then you have a different problem. It's not necessarily a separation anxiety. It's more of, oh, here comes the mailman. I bark, 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 and he leaves. I made that mailman leave. So I self-rewarded by bark, 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 and the guy left. So that's a whole other bag of worms. So I hope this helps. And if somebody else is struggling at home with, how do I get my dog to be in the yard by themselves? Well, they don't really need to be doing that. It makes us feel better as humans. But if you want to go there because they have to go potty and you can't get home every 8 hours or something, or 4 hours, then you can work up to that over time. There's plenty of dogs that are fine in people's yards without creating havoc in the neighborhood or passerbyers or just separation anxiety to themselves. So I hope that's helpful. Hey, Mandy, you're back. I hope that was helpful. I hope you heard it. And thanks, Paige. I like that analogy. Hi, Tanya. Good to see you. All right. I have another question. And somebody asked me, a recent client inquiry, how long does my dog have to wear the e-collar? This is another analogy out there. So I'm going to compare the e-collar to just a regular leash. So I often say to people, how long, is the leash in your dog's life? It's in their life forever. But do they wear it 24/7? Nope. You pick and choose when you want to put that leash on. So now think of the e-collar as that leash. If they are properly e-collar trained and you've done a really good job, if there's a leash law, they have to be on the leash. But if there's no leash law and you're not right next to the 405 freeway or some crazy highway where your dog might spook and run out into a street, that's a whole other thing. So aside from those two places or scenarios, think of the e-collar as that leash. So I put an e-collar on my dog Tioga when I am somewhere brand new, or when I know I'm having a new dog come over and I want to try to have them interact, but I still want to have control of Tioga. Definitely when I go to the vet. Clearly I need to do something with my Wi-Fi. I don't know why it keeps doing this. I apologize again. Where was I? Talking about the leash and the e-collar. I'm having technical difficulties and it's new for me, so I'm trying to take deep breaths, have a sip of wine with my happy cup, happy faces, and trying to remain calm. Remain calm. Think dogs. What does the saying go? Read books, stay calm, drink wine, stay calm, think dogs. Anyway, I'm going to go back to the question. I'm sorry that it's been very erratic this evening. I'm going to go back to the question, which is, how long do they have to wear an e-collar? And I like to think of the e-collar as the leash. So the e-collar now is the tool you use. It's the go-to way to communicate with your dog. Hey, Mary, how are you? I've been having technical difficulties with my connections this evening, and I'm hoping I stay connected. And I need to figure it out if I don't. However, going back to the e-collar analogy, the e-collar is like the leash. And as Mary has said, Mary Alice has said, the e-collar, which she remembers me saying, it's like Bluetooth for your dog. It's wireless communication. So instead of using the leash all the time on your dog, now you're using the remote collar. And I put the e-collar on with my dog Tioga whenever I'm going somewhere new, when I have new dogs coming over, if I'm on a road trip and I'm at a rest area at the side. If there's a leash law, he's wearing a leash. But if not, I don't have anything on him because he's so well leash or e-collar trained. So that's a good way to look at it. Does your dog have to wear the e-collar forever? Not 24/7, but it's the tool, it's the go-to tool. So maybe you're going to the vet, which they probably want a leash on, but maybe you're just on a road trip and you're at the side of some, dry dirt highway and you're just letting your dog out to a pee. That's fine. They don't really need the leash if they have been properly e-collar trained. So think of it that way. I hope that helps. And then there's another thing I like to throw out there with e-collars, and that's once your dog is properly e-collar trained, you shouldn't just be using it every single time. You don't need to anymore. And we talked about this today. I talked about it with Mary, that you use it when there's no compliance. So Tioga, for example, when I say Tioga come, he usually comes 9 out of 10 times. That 10th time, I'll say Tioga come, and he's too busy engaged. All right, I am just going to salvage what I can of my live videos by putting this at the end to just complete it and put it back on Facebook so you could watch something more succinct. Anyway, to finish what I was saying about e-collar and compliance only, Tioga's at the place where he just needs it for compliance. So if on that 10th time when I say Tioga come and he doesn't, I will give him stimulation after I say the command. And it's usually a higher number than he would be working at because I want him to just get it. It'll be shorter but higher, and I want him to just get it and come because he knows better. He knows better. So that's how I use e-collars and how I compare it to a leash. And they can come off of them at some point, but maybe not 100% of the time. It's like with the leash. It's always in the dog's life. It might only be 2% of the time, though. Maybe 10%, depending on your dog. Or it just depends on what you're doing with your dog. So that answers that question. So I'm sorry for all the disconnects with the Wi-Fi, and I hope next week it won't be so bad. I'll do some practicing between now and then, but thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next week. I had one more question that I'll just save for next week. So hope to see you then. It's Cheryl, lead Off Leash K9 Training. Have a great week. Bye.